Okay, this video is really interesting because it shows how everything ties together. Now notice I don't use those clips. There are swivels with a clip on the end. I don't use them because I've had failures. The clip can pop open, and the clip sometimes has a little sharp hook on the end where you snap it open and close. I've had that tangle the lines, so I don't use those. And I found that they actually really don't even help, even if they are used. The only thing that helps is putting the swivel at the body rather than trying to put the swivel over here. All they do is add weight, and they make it difficult to pack because a swivel with a hook, you've got two pieces of metal, and that's kind of long. It's hard to put that in a body tube because you can't simply pack it up like you can a Kevlar cord. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you how the whole thing is hooked together. Everything is put together with knots. And it's very, very important because knots, we can tie them, but we can also untie them. So if you want, you can take everything apart and say, I want to use a different streamer. Or if you want to put a parachute in, you just switch the streamer, maybe a wider streamer, a streamer with some other particular designs on it. Or if you want to put a chute in there, or if you want to change your chutes, it's real easy. The only difference is rather than attaching to the eyelet here, everything simply attaches to this metal washer right here. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how you put the whole thing together. This is actually kind of fun. I'm going to untie this Kevlar cord, but I'm going to show you how very easily this opens. Even though this is around 6 feet long, it's all looks like it's tangled together. It's not. It's actually wound a particular way. It's wound so that every other half turn alternates direction. So that by the time we get to the end, there's no twist on it. So what happens is on ejection, it just opens up, boop, like that, very quickly. And that again prevents our ejection cord from tangling. It opens up very quickly. And it just gives us a very nice and reliable type of situation. Again, I keep on saying the word reliable because my engineering background, I have to do design for reliability on the systems, and I want these things to work. I want them to work every time. I want them to make sure that they have very predictable characteristics. If I fly a streamer, I want to say I know what it's going to do, and that's why I try to make these things as predictable as possible. Okay, so we are going to attach the nose cone. To do this, we're going to insert the small end through it. Now notice that the knot here does not have to pass through here. So all we have to do is take, this is the mess here, let me kind of, okay. So the knot does not have to pass through, but rather you just have this loop. This is why we can keep this small. So we take the large loop and we just simply feed it through here, and we just pull this through. So now we have the nose cone attached to the short end of the Kevlar cord. That's step one. Step two is we're going to attach the protection blanket. We take the long loop and we pass it through the eyelet. Now this we do have to pull through. This eyelet was selected such that it's just big enough to let me get the knot right through. So the knot comes right through. Now we pull this through. So now the important part, and that is that this eyelet has to be tied as close to the nose cone as possible. We tie it way up here, and we put the streamer in, fold it up. The streamer stays stuck right there next to the nose cone, and it does not slide down. So we want to get this as close to the nose cone as possible. So what we do is we can see that we have this through the eyelet, but now we're just going to tie a simple knot, or we're going to tie two of them, but you see it's real easy. I think we've been tying these since we were, 3 years old. We just pass the cord through. We just have a very simple knot here. This does not have to be extremely tight because it only is going to take one little yank at ejection time. Okay. So I tie this as high as I can. That's tied up close to the nose cone knot. Then I'm going to put another knot in there, another simple knot, so it doesn't slide around. One thing about Kevlar, it's extremely strong and it's also very slippery. It likes to slide around. So you can even see this knot's already sliding around. So let me kind of pull this tight again. Okay, so we can now put this through here, pull it through to tie another knot. See, this is just a very simple knot. Same thing that we just did. Now we're tying two of them. And again, we want to try to get this cord as close as we can to the top of the nose cone. Okay, so now we got the Kevlar cord attached. And again, what's nice about this is that this will hold through the ejection. It's a double, it's two simple knots. We can pull on this as hard as we want, and it's not going to come apart. Oh, by the way, I glue this particular brass washer to the Kevlar. Now, gluing metal onto Kevlar is a trick because very few things will stick to both of them at the same time. I use the E6000 polymer glue because, again, it's got a silicone base. It will penetrate the Kevlar, and the silicone will actually kind of like weave itself around within the Kevlar, so it actually soaks in and then it sticks. And it will also stick to the metal surface, so it's probably the only material I know, only glue I know, that will stick to both materials at the same time. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to attach this to the rocket. First thing we want to do is to add our little piece of heat shrink. And again, we'll go through this in detail when the black Brant rockets come in. Okay, so I'm going to slide this through the swivel. And again, we do not have to pass the knot through, but this swivel is rather large and it does pass through. It doesn't really make any difference. This loop has to be big enough to pass the nose cone through. So we pass the nose cone through, and the Kevlar blanket is real easy to pass through because it's so light and you can easily pass it through. Now we just pass this through and the knot will be formed on the end. And we have the same kind of knot that we had before. Basically a slip knot where this will just simply pull tight. And pull that tight, and the minute we let go, you see it springs apart. So under flight conditions, this is going to go like this, and it's going to ride up on here, and it's just by the time 3 or 4 seconds have passed, this knot is unraveled and it's tangling up the swivel. So what we do now is we take this piece of 3/16 heat shrink and we pull this up, and we put this on here. And just push this, and this eventually covers the end of the swivel. And there we go. The swivel now can spin very, very freely. I have on occasion heated this and made it tight, and it holds incredibly well. But then you can't get this cord off. At the time, my reason is like, well, it doesn't matter. I'll just cut this and just retie it. So you can do that if you want. Unfortunately, trying to get this heat shrink off is also difficult. Once this stuff shrinks, it gets really, really hard, and it's almost impossible to remove, even with a hobby knife. I found I have to reheat it and then pull it back. So rather than going through all of that, I just simply do not shrink this. It'll stay there because it just has to absorb the quick yank, and it's just holding the knot in place. Okay, now for the most important part. We've got the cord attached to the blanket and the nose cone. And we know the streamer is going to fit in here like this. So now we attach the streamer onto the eyelet. Now what's interesting is that I attach this last because you can attach any streamer that you want, that you built and that you designed, if you want to quickly change in the field. And that's what's nice about this. You can very, very quickly say, oh, I'm going to try a different streamer. By using a larger streamer loop like this, even if the streamer is unwound, you can pass the streamer through here in an unwound state, in which case you can take the streamer off even if you haven't had it wound up yet. So that's really nice for changing the field. So you fly this and go, oh, that went great, but I just want to use a different type of material. You can see that this streamer will fit through that loop very, very carefully. So that's why we make this loop big enough to pass the streamer width through it. Otherwise, we wouldn't need this length, but we'd only need to pass the streamer diameter. But again, it's wide so that we can pass the streamer once it's unwound. Okay, now what we're going to do is pass this through the eyelet. It does fit, a bit of a challenge sometimes, but let me pass this through the eyelet again. Okay, looks like that worked very easily. I don't have to pull the knot through, and it's probably not going to go through with that other cord in there. So what I want to do is pull this through here. Now we have the eyelet holding both the streamer and the rocket body. So if you want, you can yank as hard as you want, and it's not going to come apart. You need 500 pounds to break that Kevlar, and you're not going to tear apart that metal eyelet. So if the streamer is yanking hard, or the body is bouncing around, all the force now is on this eyelet and on the cords, and the nose cone is just along for the ride. Okay, so like I said, there's a lot of details here, and we'll go through it in detail when we actually do the black Brant. But what's important, again, is to see how everything kind of ties together. We have to do the rocket body. We have to do this a certain way. And again, when you get your kit, when I get mine, we have to first treat the body tubes. We have to do two things. We have to do what's called chamfering, and then which basically which removes the manufacturing kink on it. And then we have to put the CA glue on it. Then we have to sand that down. And again, that's necessary to glue in the nozzle. Without doing that, the nozzle is going to be hard to glue in. So again, there's some body prep work that we have to do. Then the fun part's going to come putting this together. This is all just the right dimensions and cutting things. And then lastly, we'll just wind everything up and put it in. And I'll save that for the next video.